New executive action from President Biden, pardoning thousands of Americans convicted of simple marijuana possession under federal law.
Across the country, violent crime is on the rise, and police chiefs believe one major policy change is at least partly behind the surge. From L.A.
Zero bail poses challenges
to Chicago.
Keeping violent offenders in jail longer.
Hi, everybody. Auntie Speaks. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the algorithm and helps me get out to more people. So, Democrats, they have some really crazy ideas when it comes to crime. And now President Biden decides, hey, let's just let out everybody from jail. Let's just let them out. Does that sound like a good idea? I mean, it's only marijuana. Federal marijuana charges. Let me hint you up on a clue. If you are sent to jail under federal charges for marijuana possession, yeah, you pled down. See, this is how it works in the criminal justice system. You get arrested for dealing drugs and, doing really bad things. And then the two lawyers sit down and they say, okay, well, my guy will plead guilty if you reduce the sentence. That's how most people get to jail for quote unquote marijuana possession. So that's number one. And number two, no cash bail. Yeah. That sounds awesome. So you can go out and, do strong arm robberies all across, New York, and then you get caught, and then you get in front of a judge, and they say, okay, come back in a month later, you're free to go. Yeah, what happens when you have no cash bail?
New York.
How do you describe the state of where we are right now?
I think there certainly is fear.
The state of New York did away with cash bail for low-level offenders in 2019. That means those charged with some crimes aren't held in jail, but instead released until they stand trial.
I've seen them myself where certain individuals, in my opinion, should not be released into our community. They make our community less safe.
Other states like California, Illinois, Kentucky, and New Mexico have made similar changes. And shortly after reform was enacted in New Jersey in 2017, June Rogers lost her 26-year-old son, Christian. The father of two was allegedly gunned down by a convicted felon who was arrested days before on a weapons charge and released.
You're angry over this bail reform in New Jersey.
Of course I am.
That mother has a right to be angry. They have a right to be angry. So why do the Democrats do this? Why do they believe in no cash bail? Well, it's very simple. Democrats do not believe that people are bad. They don't. They think if you're committing a crime that something happened to you and it's not really your fault. You're black, so you're oppressed, or you're poor, so you're oppressed. There's some other reason for it. So it's unfair to ask for bail. Now, the thought behind this a little bit makes sense. Rich people, they get out of jail right away, and some poor people who commit crimes, they can't afford bail. This report goes in later of one person who couldn't afford her bail and she was in jail for a year. But it should be on a case-by-case basis. Let's look at some things that have happened because of no cash bail. Okay, everybody, let's see what no cash bail has done for a place like New York City. Here we go. New York City man released without bail for McDonald's axe attack. So you can go into McDonald's and, pull out an axe and get out of jail right away. Okay, all right, let's see what else here. Prosecutors, gang members committed multiple heinous crimes after being released without bail. So it's a gang member. A gang member that you released. Okay, all right, let's move on. NYC man arrested 3 times in 36 hours brags of release due to cash bail reform. So he was arrested 3 times. And you let him out of jail so he could do another crime. Okay, let's move on. Career criminal indicted on murder charge, freed without bail. A murder charge? Okay. That was just the top 4 that I saw on a Google search. I could literally have done this diatribe for another half an hour just reading headlines. How did we get here?
Now, for the last 3 years, this protest movement known as Black Lives Matter has convulsed the nation. Triggered by the police shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, the Black Lives Matter movement holds that policing is systemically racist and that we are living through an epidemic of racially biased police shootings of black men.
This is Heather McDonald. She's done a bunch of research on policing in the United States. I've put the full clip below.
First, that there is no government agency more dedicated to the proposition that Black Lives Matter than the police. And second, that we've been talking about phantom police racism for the last 2 decades in order not to talk about a far more difficult and uncomfortable problem, and that's black-on-black crime. Patterns of policing today do not demonstrate racism. Contemporary policing is data-driven. In order to save lives, cops go where people are most being victimized, and that is in minority neighborhoods. To understand policing today, you have to look at the facts of crime. In 2015, over 7,000 blacks were murdered. That is 2,000 more homicide victims than the number of all white and Hispanic homicide victims combined, even though blacks are only 13% of the nation's population. Blacks of all ages are killed at 6 times the rate of whites and Hispanics combined. In Los Angeles, a typical city, blacks between the ages of 20 and 24 die at a rate 20 to 30 times the national mean. Who is killing them? Not the police and not white civilians, but other blacks.
Those are some very scary statistics. In Los Angeles, a black person is 20 times more likely to die by homicide than their counterpart Hispanic and whites. These are very difficult conversations, but if you care about Black lives, these are the conversations that we all need to have.
Black males between the ages of 14 and 17 commit homicide at 10 times the rate of white and Hispanic male teens combined. The police could end all use of lethal force tomorrow, and it would have at best a negligible effect on the black homicide death rate. In fact, a much larger percentage of white and Hispanic homicide victims are killed by cops than black homicide victims. Blacks are 23% of the city's population, but they commit 75% of all shootings and 70% of all robberies. How do we know this? This is what the victims of and witnesses to those shootings tell the police in their reports to police officers. That urban police are called to a shooting scene. They're being called to a minority neighborhood on behalf of minority suspects and being given the description of a minority on behalf of minority victims and being given the description of a minority suspect if anyone is cooperating.
Okay, so those are some very tough statistics, but that is the reality that we live in. Okay? So we can't close our eyes to these statistics.
Every day, in just 2/3 of the nation's police jurisdictions, there are 23 deadly weapons assaults on officers. For every 10 deadly weapons assaults, the cops kill 1 person. Now, among those 991 victims of fatal police shootings in 2015, 50% were white, and 26% were black. You'd never know that, however, the white victims from the press coverage. 4 studies came out last year alone showing that if there's a bias in police shootings, it works in favor of blacks and against whites.
Yeah, pretty crazy, isn't it? Comment below if you've heard any of these statistics. That statistically, if you are a white criminal, you have a better chance of being shot than if you're a black criminal. Why is that? Well, if you shoot a white person, you're not going to end up on the news. Your job is not going to be in danger. If you take down a white criminal, you took down a white criminal, and that's it. It's not even going to hit the paper. Okay? So what does this do to black communities? It makes the police officers back off and not do proactive policing.
Officers back off of that type of proactive policing, crime shoots through the roof. 2015 saw the largest one-year increase in homicides in nearly half a century. Now, when cops back off, something else happens besides high crime. The many law-abiding residents of inner city areas find themselves ignored. I have never been to a police community meeting in a high crime neighborhood like South Central LA, South Bronx, or Central Harlem, Central Brooklyn, where I haven't heard some variant of the following request from the people in that room. You arrest the drug dealers and they're back on the corner the next day.
So you probably heard a bunch of people screaming in the background. That was the Black Lives Matter protest. They protest pretty much every time Heather McDonald speaks because, of course, she's a racist because she's talking about statistics of crime. And this was back in 2015. Things have gotten much, much worse. So the Black Lives Matter movement has killed probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of black people. Why? Because every time they do a protest, the cops pull back a little bit more. They pull back a little bit more. They pull back a little bit more. They do not do proactive policing, which is, yeah, that guy's a drug dealer right there, but he's black. He might have a gun. If I shoot him, I'm going to lose my job. That is the reality in today's cities. And here is a chart of the result of those realities. This can be laid at the feet of Black Lives Matter and the Democrat Party. You see this firearm homicide rate? Most of those are black people. And a lot of them are innocent. They're just people living their lives, trying to get by day. I mean, some of these stories are just heart-wrenching. She goes through them. Please look at the entire clip. You can see right there to the right, firearm homicides. 2019, and this is just 2020. Just imagine how bad it is in 2022. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up with what Heather McDonald had to say. Sorry, my face is freezing. About this wonderful idea to let go people in federal prisons on marijuana charges. Okay. Biden said that this was right, to right the racial wrongs that the criminal justice system has allegedly perpetrated. While white and black and brown people use marijuana at the same rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionately high rates, quote unquote. So that's Biden's reasoning. Okay. Then she goes on, a black person is more than 3 times as likely to be arrested for possession than a white person, according to a report from the ACLU. The ACLU, which does nothing to help anybody anymore. They used to be a wonderful organization that protected free speech. Now they don't believe in free speech. Now, this is a really long article. I'm going to link it below, so look at the whole thing. She claims that the rates of marijuana use in the black community are higher than actually in the white or Hispanic communities. But this is really what makes me mad. And it's what I said before. If you are in federal prison for marijuana possession, you pled down to get in there. So here we go. Marijuana possession convictions are usually the result of plea bargaining down from more serious charges, whether drug trafficking, or other felonies. In 2013, over 91% of federal marijuana possession convictions came from arrests made at the border. The median quantity of marijuana possession by these border offenders was 48 pounds. That load would make for one very large blunt. But it is not likely that the possessors intended to smoke their suitcase of pot themselves. Rather, U.S. attorneys were charging traffickers with the easier to prove possession offense. Okay, guys. So, crime hurts inner city communities the most. When you back off on crime, when you have no cash bail, you are hurting the inner city communities. You are killing Black people. So once again, who cares about Black people here? Is it the Republicans who want to be hard on crime? It's a very, very small portion of people who commit all of the crime. If you take those people and you put them away, then those communities will be safe, i.e. Giuliani, New York. Please look it up. Okay, guys, this is getting a little long. I want to thank you so much for sticking to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you on the next one.